those of you in this room this night who are engineers or architects, or those of you who are doing some type of building or creative work, you will do well to study the flower of life and to understand how sacred geometry works and how it is created.
When I was a teenager, I was in a monastic community, and most of the older orders insisted on an alignment of the mind to spiritual science. All of this is livened up by the speech on sacred geometry, and I found it fascinating.
Shapes have both positive and negative energy components, and if negative components is not actually neutralized, shapes do not produce balancing properties. They have harmful properties for our energy system. So, on Great Pyramid and all three pyramids of Giza, this harmful element, which is actually coming from this negative green, and which is vertical component, which is electrical one, is harmful, and it has been neutralized by making indent in the base of the pyramid. Even though we all believe that the base of the pyramid is square, it's actually not square because it's been indented by 0.5 degrees. See here, it's not a straight line, it's 0.5 degrees here, so it's actually a certain octagon.
I've just been to a talk with Milena, and it was based around her book Memento 13, and I tell you what, it was totally mind-blowing and certainly inspiring.
In terms of just realigning, becoming self-aware, using shape and form and geometry in all these other mediums, I think is what interests me, particularly in the world of psychology, and how we can apply these sort of biogeometry in psychotherapeutic methods.
So what is evident in sacred buildings is that those ancient masters actually knew very well the energy of the spots on the earth where they were building them, and they also knew how to neutralize the negative components of the shapes of their buildings. And in that way they will leave only the positive ones, which will be able then come into resonance with the same sacred qualities which are in our energy system and revitalize us and give us energy boost, so to say.
I'm always fascinated by sacred geometry and how we can apply it in this world. And I thought you brought out those points really well. How we apply it to architecture, to sounds, to healing work, to agriculture, to how we make this planet more beautiful and healthy.
The good news is that actually every number can become sacred. How? By geometrically reconfiguring it. Any shape in which two sides relate to one another to 5 is called golden. This is golden rectangle, which means if I divided this distance on the bigger side with the smaller one, I will have 1.618. And pentagram is when we draw diagonals of the pentagon, we got this star. And this star, or pentagon, is actually like a storehouse of golden proportions, or actually every triangle which you see there, which is grey, is golden triangle. We can see it here. This is golden proportion, see? In smaller details, if you want to calculate the size of this part of the finger, we take this length of this one and multiply by 1.618. But the Fibonacci series is present in all living systems, even in plants. So many plants branch in this same way. Smoke also behaves as fractals, clouds and mountains wrinkle as fractals. When this was discovered relatively recently by mathematicians, that made big difference in the industry of animated films, videos and games, computer games, because from that moment those artists were able to simulate reality of physical world with amazing accuracy.
I just come away from Milena's talk really inspired by her interpretation of sacred geometry and all her research and her beautiful book and all the artistry in it, and the artwork is really beautiful, and explanation of Fibonacci, the circle of life, consciousness, the division, the yin and the yang. Inspired to go on and do my own research on the healing within the geometry and the power of the word.
I think the most fascinating thing for me is looking at the flower of life symbol, of which I have one around my neck, and finding this sort of perfect form, how we can incorporate that into practice, into our lives.
So is this all by chance that all these natural phenomena is so much related to some mathematical rules? Fractals help us actually to find out that even irregular shapes, seemingly irregular shapes, have beauty and order in them. So this is one of the so beautiful natural fractals accessible to us. What it shows us, there is a certain number of spirals going in left and right directions, and we see that each cone in this spiral is actually resembling the shape of the whole, and each one in its structure resembles the structure of the whole. And if we focus on each one of these cones, we will find the same geometry. It describes to us visually transcendental nature of reality, that in a finite space we are actually seeing and potentially going into infinity. So with every new detail we want to describe in this geometry, using the same pattern, we go deeper down and actually reaching nothing but infinity.
It's been a real inspiration to furthering my own studies and my own search of our human potential.
What was most interesting for me was how she was able to use mathematics and sacred geometry to show how we all are connected at the very, very deepest level. And I'll tell you what, once you've read the book or once you've heard her talk, you will never again believe you and I are separate or any human separate.